Anger is a powerful feeling. It shows up when we feel threatened or treated unfairly. It can feel like a hot fire inside us. Sometimes it's a small spark, other times it's a roaring flame. We all know this feeling. It's a very human emotion, a signal that something might be wrong or needs our attention. Learning about anger starts with understanding this signal. It's not about pretending we don't feel it, it's about recognizing it when it arrives, acknowledging its presence, and understanding its message. This emotion, in itself, is neither good nor bad. It simply is. This feeling often just happens. We don't usually choose to become angry. A situation occurs, someone says something, or a memory surfaces, and suddenly, anger is there. It can catch us by surprise. It might bubble up slowly or explode in an instant. The arrival of anger is often outside our immediate control. It's a natural response to certain triggers in our lives. What's important to remember is that this initial spark is just the beginning of the story, not the entire narrative. We are not defined by the mere presence of anger within us. While the feeling of anger can arise automatically, we have a very real choice in how we respond to it. This is where our power lies. We can choose to let anger control us, leading to actions we might regret, or we can choose to pause, to breathe, and to think about how we want to act. This moment of choice is crucial. It's the space between the feeling and the reaction. Learning to navigate this space is key to mastering anger. It's about moving from a reactive stance to a responsive one, which requires awareness and practice. The journey to inner peace involves understanding this dynamic. Anger will visit us throughout our lives. It's a part of being human. But we don't have to be its hostage. We can learn to meet anger with curiosity instead of fear. We can explore what it's trying to tell us. We can choose responses that align with our values and our desire for connection, both with ourselves and with others. It's a practice, a way of showing up for ourselves with more intention and less reactivity, even when the sparks begin to fly. When anger flares up, it's important to pause and ask ourselves a question. Who is really being affected most by this feeling? Often, we think our anger is directed outward. We believe it impacts the person or situation that triggered it. But if we look closely, we might find that we are the ones carrying the heaviest burden. The person feeling the anger is the one whose stomach churns, whose heart races, and whose mind replays the upsetting event over and over. This self-awareness is the first step toward understanding the true cost of our anger. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that our anger is justified, and sometimes it truly is. Situations can be unfair, people can be hurtful. But even when justified, holding on to that anger can be like holding on to a hot coal. We intend to throw it at someone else, but we are the ones getting burned in the process. This internal impact can be significant. It colors our mood, drains our energy, and can make it hard to focus on anything else. The person who is angry often feels isolated even if surrounded by others. Think about a time you were really angry. How did it feel in your body? What thoughts went through your mind? How did it affect your day or even your week? Reflecting on these past experiences can be very revealing. We might realize that our anger didn't solve the problem. It may have even made things worse. Perhaps it damaged a relationship or simply left us feeling exhausted and unhappy. This honest look at the consequences of our anger can motivate us to find healthier ways to deal with it. Ultimately, checking in with ourselves helps us see that we are often the primary recipients of our anger's negative effects. While our anger might be aimed at an external target, its most immediate and profound impact is internal. This realization isn't about blaming ourselves for feeling angry, it's about understanding the full picture. It's about recognizing that managing our anger is an act of self-care. It's about choosing to protect our own peace and well-being, even when faced with difficult situations or people. Anger doesn't just live in our minds, it creates real physical stress in our bodies. When we get angry, our body's alarm system goes off. This is often called the fight or flight response. Hormones like adrenaline and cortisol flood our system. Our heart rate increases, our blood pressure rises, our muscles tense up, preparing us to either fight the perceived threat or run away from it. This response is designed to help us in short bursts of danger. It's a survival mechanism. However, many of us experience anger frequently or hold on to it for long periods. When this happens, our bodies stay in this state of high alert. This chronic stress takes a heavy toll on our physical health. It's like keeping an engine running at full throttle all the time. Eventually, parts start to wear out. Constant anger can contribute to serious health problems. These include heart disease, high blood pressure, and a weakened immune system, making us more vulnerable to illnesses. It can also lead to headaches, digestive issues, and sleep problems. The connection between our emotions and our physical health is incredibly strong. What we feel emotionally, our body often experiences physically. When we are repeatedly angry, we are essentially bathing ourselves in stress hormones. This isn't good for our long-term well-being. It can make us feel tired all the time. It can make it harder to recover from sickness. The physical sensations of anger, the clenched jaw, the tight chest, the racing pulse, are clear signals that our body is working overtime, trying to manage the emotional storm. Recognizing these physical signs is important. They are messages from our body telling us that something needs to change. Learning to manage anger is not just about feeling better emotionally, it's also about protecting our physical health. When we find ways to calm our anger, we also calm our physiological stress response. This allows our body to return to a state of balance. Taking care of our emotional well-being is a fundamental part of taking care of our physical well-being. They are deeply intertwined. When anger arrives, we stand at a crossroads. We have choices in how we respond, even if the initial feeling feels overwhelming. Some people might react by feeling sorry for themselves or the situation, which can lead to a sense of helplessness and inaction. This response internalizes the anger, often making us feel like victims. While acknowledging hurt is important, getting stuck in self-pity doesn't usually resolve the anger or the situation that caused it. It can become a way of avoiding direct engagement with the feeling or the problem. Another common response is passive aggressiveness. This is an indirect way of expressing anger. Instead of saying what's wrong, someone might make sarcastic comments, give the silent treatment, or subtly undermine the person they are angry with. Passive aggression might feel safer than direct confrontation, but it rarely solves anything. It often creates more confusion and resentment. The anger simmers beneath the surface, unaddressed, and can damage trust in relationships. It's a way of expressing anger without taking full responsibility for it. Going completely silent is another way people try to control or express anger. This can involve withdrawing, refusing to speak, or emotionally shutting down. Sometimes a period of silence is needed to cool off and gather thoughts. However, prolonged silence used as a weapon can be very damaging. It can make others feel punished, confused, or ignored. While it might seem like a way to avoid conflict, unresolved anger often festers in silence. It doesn't allow for understanding or resolution, leaving issues to grow larger in the quiet. A more constructive option is self-reflection. This involves pausing before reacting. It means taking a moment to understand why we are angry and what we truly need. Instead of lashing out or shutting down, we can ask ourselves, what's really going on here? What outcome do I want? How can I express my feelings constructively? This pause allows us to choose a response that is more aligned with our values. It's about engaging with our anger thoughtfully, rather than letting it dictate our actions impulsively. This approach opens the door to healthier communication and problem solving. Section 5. The endless loop. When anger becomes a habit. Sometimes anger isn't just a fleeting emotion, it can become a persistent pattern, a cycle that's hard to break. We might find ourselves holding on to anger for a long time. It can take days, weeks, or even years to forget a perceived wrong. During this time, the anger doesn't just sit quietly. It replays in our minds, gets re-triggered by small things, and continues to affect our mood and our interactions. This lingering anger acts like an anchor, weighing us down and preventing us from moving forward freely. This unresolved anger can easily become a never-ending cycle. An initial angry feeling, if not processed and released, can lead to more anger. We might become more sensitive to new triggers. We might interpret neutral situations through an angry lens. This creates a feedback loop. We feel angry, so we act in ways that might provoke more conflict or negativity, which then fuels more anger. It's like being stuck on a hamster wheel, running hard but going nowhere, just getting more and more tired. This constant state of anger or readiness for anger depletes our strength. It's emotionally exhausting. It takes a lot of energy to maintain a state of high alert, to keep replaying grievances, and to manage the tension that comes with unresolved anger. This energy could be used for so many other positive things in our lives, for joy, for connection, for creativity, for growth. When anger becomes a dominant emotional state, it robs us of these opportunities and can leave us feeling drained and unfulfilled. Recognizing that we are caught in an anger cycle is the first crucial step to breaking free. It requires honesty with ourselves. We need to acknowledge the pattern and its impact on our lives. Are we frequently irritable, Do small things set us off? Are we holding on to old hurts? Answering these questions can be uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Once we see the cycle, we can begin to explore ways to interrupt it. This might involve new coping strategies, seeking support, or making conscious choices to respond differently when anger arises. Section 6. Speaking our truth with heart, assertiveness and forgiveness. When dealing with anger, it's vital to find a balance. We need to be assertive but also forgiving. Being assertive means expressing our feelings, needs, and boundaries in a clear, honest, and respectful way. It's not about being aggressive or demanding, it's about standing up for ourselves without stepping on others. When something makes us angry because our boundaries are crossed or our needs are unmet, assertiveness allows us to communicate this effectively. It's about saying, "This is not okay with me," in a way that can be heard. At the same time, forgiveness is a powerful tool for healing anger. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning bad behavior. It doesn't mean forgetting what happened or necessarily reconciling with the person who hurt us. Forgiveness is primarily for ourselves. It's about letting go of the resentment and the desire for revenge that keeps us tied to the anger. Holding on to anger is like letting someone live rent-free in our head. Forgiveness is the act of evicting them and reclaiming our own inner peace. These two qualities, assertiveness and forgiveness, work together beautifully. Assertiveness helps us address the situation that caused the anger, hopefully preventing it from happening again. It allows us to protect ourselves and maintain our self-respect. Forgiveness then helps us release the emotional burden of the anger once the situation has been addressed or accepted. One without the other can be incomplete. Assertiveness without forgiveness can lead to bitterness. Forgiveness without assertiveness might lead to being repeatedly mistreated. Some people think forgiveness is a sign of weakness. I believe it's a profound act of strength. It takes courage to forgive, especially when the hurt is deep. But the freedom that comes from forgiveness is immense. It frees up our energy. It allows us to move on from the past. It helps us heal the wounds that anger keeps open. Being assertive helps us navigate the world with confidence. Being forgiving helps us navigate our inner world with compassion. Together, they help us manage anger in a way that is both healthy and wholehearted. Section 7. The freedom of letting go. Accepting what we cannot change. A significant source of anger comes from trying to control things that are ultimately beyond our control. We cannot always control other people's actions, opinions, or feelings. We cannot always control situations or outcomes, no matter how much we might want to. When we try to force things to be a certain way or people to be who we want them to be, we often end up frustrated and angry. This struggle for control is exhausting and often futile. It's like trying to hold water tightly in our fist. The more we squeeze, the more it slips away. Understanding this limitation is key. It requires a shift in perspective. We need to develop compassion both for ourselves and for others. People are complex. They have their own histories, struggles, and perspectives that shape their behavior. Situations unfold due to a multitude of factors, many of which are outside our influence. Recognizing this doesn't mean we become passive or indifferent. It means we learn to distinguish between what we can influence and what we must accept. This is a crucial step towards inner peace. Acceptance is the art of acknowledging reality as it is, without necessarily liking it or agreeing with it. It's about saying, "This is the situation," or "This person is behaving this way," and then deciding how to respond from that place of acceptance, rather than from a place of resistance or denial. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means we stop wasting energy fighting against unchangeable realities. This freed up energy can then be used to focus on what we can control, our own responses, our own choices, and our own actions. This process of understanding, cultivating compassion, and practicing acceptance can be challenging. It goes against our natural desire to manage our environment and ensure our own comfort and safety. However, the freedom that comes from letting go of the need to control everything is immense. It reduces the frequency and intensity of our anger because we are no longer constantly battling against the unchangeable. We learn to flow with life more, rather than constantly swimming against the current. This acceptance is a powerful pathway to reducing anger and finding greater serenity. Section 8. Building an inner sanctuary, daily practices for calm. Learning to manage anger effectively involves cultivating habits that promote inner calm. These are practices we can integrate into our daily lives to build resilience against stress and reactivity. One powerful tool is journaling. Writing down our thoughts and feelings when we are angry, or even just regularly reflecting on our day, can be incredibly helpful. It allows us to process emotions, gain clarity, and understand our triggers better. It's like having a conversation with ourselves, a safe space to explore what's happening inside without judgment. Another important practice is learning to respect different opinions. So much anger arises from arguments and disagreements, especially when we believe our way is the only right way. People see the world through different lenses, shaped by their unique experiences and values. Expecting everyone to agree with us is unrealistic and a setup for frustration. Learning to listen with an open mind, even when we disagree, can diffuse potential anger. It's about seeking to understand rather than just wanting to be right. This doesn't mean we abandon our own beliefs, but we make space for others. We can also actively choose to avoid negative behaviors that fuel anger, both in ourselves and in others. This includes things like nagging, constant complaining, or engaging in pointless arguments. These behaviors rarely lead to positive outcomes and often escalate tension. Instead, we can focus on constructive communication. We can choose to address issues calmly and directly. We can also practice gratitude, focusing on what's good in our lives, which can shift our overall emotional state away from negativity and towards a more peaceful outlook. Mindfulness is another valuable practice. This means paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It can be as simple as focusing on our breath for a few minutes each day. Mindfulness helps us become more aware of our thoughts and feelings as they arise, including the early signs of anger. This awareness gives us more space to choose our response, rather than reacting automatically. These daily practices, though they may seem small, compound over time to build a stronger foundation of inner peace and make it easier to navigate anger when it appears. Section 9. The Journey Home. Finding Peace Through Acceptance. The journey to mastering anger and finding inner peace ultimately leads us to the profound wisdom of acceptance. It's about learning to accept people, situations, and even our own emotions, just as they are. This doesn't mean we become passive or stop striving for positive change. It means we stop fighting reality. We acknowledge what is, without the constant struggle of wishing things were different. This acceptance is a cornerstone of a more peaceful existence, reducing the internal friction that so often fuels anger. Reiterating the importance of accepting differences is key. We live in a diverse world, full of people with different backgrounds, beliefs, and ways of being. When we expect everyone to think, feel, and act like us, we set ourselves up for disappointment and anger. True peace comes when we can respect these differences. It comes when we can approach others with curiosity and a willingness to understand, even if we don't agree. This respect fosters connection rather than conflict, creating a more harmonious environment both around us and within us. Respecting and accepting people and situations as they are, without constant judgment or the need to control, is a powerful path to inner tranquility. It allows us to let go of so much unnecessary stress and frustration. When we accept that we cannot change others, we can focus our energy on changing ourselves, our reactions, our perspectives, our choices. This shift in focus is incredibly empowering. It moves us from a place of feeling victimized by circumstances or others, to a place of agency over our own internal state. Ultimately, mastering anger is not about eliminating it entirely, for it is a natural human emotion. Instead, it is about transforming our relationship with it. It's about understanding its messages, choosing our responses wisely, and cultivating a mindset of acceptance and compassion. This journey isn't always easy, but it is deeply rewarding. By embracing acceptance, we open ourselves up to a more profound sense of peace, a quiet strength that allows us to navigate life's challenges with greater calm and resilience. This is the path home to ourselves.